you think wins in a fight, you or Prime Floyd?
Me.
No questions?
Why would you think that I would say Floyd?
That there's not another guy in the world that can beat you right now. That's Mayweather level. Head to head at their welterweight primes, Bud versus Floyd. I feel like a lot of us might actually be picking Bud right now. But what he achieved, I cannot put him above Mayweather or Pacquiao because he got these opportunities so late.
This is the problem with Bud's career, right? It bloomed kind of late.
Bud's been the best man for 12 years, but no one gave him credit because he didn't go tell you he was the best man. He didn't market that. He just went out and fought and beat people and knocked people out. So he had to move up and take the bigger fight.
Terence Crawford confidently addressed Floyd Mayweather's remarks about potentially beating him. He asserted that even if Mayweather were in his prime, he'd still come out on top. Crawford highlighted his legacy as a fighter who never backed down from a challenge, making it clear that he's always faced whoever was put in front of him. He also implied that should a bout with Mayweather ever become a reality, he wouldn't shy away from it either.
And he started going like this, and then that's when Floyd started taking over.
What do you want your legacy to be like when your career's all said and done? What do you want people to remember you for?
Oh man, everybody's asking me the question. I always be like, man, it's whatever it's their opinion. Everybody gonna have a different opinion of Terence Crawford, but one thing they can't say is that I ducked anyone. I fought everyone that was available to fight.
Boxing analyst Dan Raphael believes Terence Crawford has reached a point in his career where he no longer needs to fight to secure his place in history. According to Raphael, Crawford's achievements, like from clearing out divisions and unifying titles to dominating top-tier competition, have already set him apart. He notes that Crawford has never shown vulnerability in the ring, making his case even stronger. At this stage, Raphael argues, it's less about proving anything and more about preserving his legacy and enjoying the recognition he's earned. In his view, Crawford has exceeded expectations, and taking on additional fights wouldn't significantly change how he's remembered. His recent performances alone, Raphael adds, have solidified his status among boxing's all-time greats.
What does a Terence Crawford do now? Like, what's the next thing that he does? Because you look around and go, is the only way that he really gets that ultimate chance if he goes up again? And do you say, what do you do?
I don't quit. Yeah, I mean, he was asked those questions at the press conference. He made two things clear. One, he's not going back to 154, and I say that because some people suggested about possibly pursuing a fight with Ennis, who has his debut in the weight class coming up.
Yep.
That's probably unlikely. He's not going to go back down in weight. And I mean, no disrespect to Ennis, but Ennis is a guy that's known within the diehards of boxing. He's not in any way known beyond the boundaries of the hardcore boxing fan. So yeah. I don't know if that makes sense for a lot of different reasons for him. Not to say I wouldn't, as a boxing fan, enjoy watching the fight. So, yeah. But I don't think he's going back to 154. He was asked about like a Benavides at 175, and he acknowledged like that guy's really big. I mean, that's maybe a bridge too far. He already went up to 2 weight classes to fight Canelo at 68. So it feels to me like he can either stay at 168 and defend this championship and look to the same types of names that were being thrown around as the types of guys that would have been in the mix for Canelo had he won the fight. And he's going to have mandatories. Obviously, that's the first thing they'll have to look at. I mean, I don't know if he's not going to necessarily keep the belts if he's forced into a mandatory. He doesn't need the belts at this point, but there might be something appealing to him. For example, and Billy had a great fight on the undercard, although he's been ordered to fight a rematch in that fight. Mm-hmm. That was, fight of the year against Lester Martinez, candidate for fight of the year.
Terence Crawford's dominant performance against Canelo Alvarez has sparked intense debate across the boxing world. Many fans and pundits began drawing comparisons to Floyd Mayweather's victory over Canelo. While Mayweather beat a younger, less experienced version of the Mexican star, Crawford's win came against a more seasoned and established Canelo, prompting some to question whether Crawford has now surpassed Mayweather in greatness. However, analyst Luke Thomas offered a more measured take. He pointed out that Crawford's rise to prominence came later than Floyd's. Mayweather was already a household name and taking on elite-level opponents early in his career, whereas Crawford's ascent was slowed by limited promotion and lack of early recognition. As a result, his peak has come later. Thomas emphasized that while Crawford's win over Canelo may have been more dominant in terms of performance, that alone doesn't automatically elevate him above Mayweather in the historical rankings. He argued that factors like timing, career development, and overall trajectory must also be considered when making such comparisons.
This was a masterclass. One guy with outrageous skill offensively and defensively, simply making another very good fighter look lesser than. This was the other part. The people who watch MMA and then try to watch boxing through an MMA lens, I don't know what to tell you. You're actually missing the point. The kind of specific details and the depth of the technical ability far surpasses even what you can get at the highest level of MMA, because they don't have that level of skill. There is no equivalent in MMA to Bud Crawford, because there cannot be. Bud is the most talented boxer I've seen since Mayweather.
I think Crawford is way better than Floyd Mayweather.
To be fair to Floyd, he obviously had hand problems in his whole welterweight run, and it's why he took that long stretch off in 2007, 2008, 2009 area, and Floyd's brilliance to be able to be just as great in some ways at that age. We're not here trying to dunk on Floyd. When you get a victory like this, right now, straight up, Luke, you could say that there's not a welterweight, junior middleweight, or maybe even super middleweight. When you could say over like a 4-division stretch, Bud cut down to any of these weights, that there's not another guy in the world that can beat you right now, that's Mayweather level. Head to head at their welterweight primes, Bud versus Floyd, I feel like a lot of us might actually be picking Bud right now. But what he achieved, I cannot put him above Mayweather or Pacquiao, because he got these opportunities so late.
This is the problem with Bud's career, right? It bloomed kind of late. I find Bud to be as defensively sound as I've ever seen a fighter. He can find you. There's nowhere to hide with him.
Like Floyd, he has such control over the terms in there. It's just insane.
Eddie McGirt was one of the most outspoken supporters of Terence Crawford following his win over Canelo Alvarez, calling the performance a masterclass in dominance. McGirt noted that from the opening bell, Crawford took control and never let Canelo find his rhythm or bring his usual pressure. He made it clear that the outcome left no room for doubt. The gap in skill was evident, and a rematch would be unnecessary. McGirt also highlighted that this victory marks a defining moment in Crawford's career. By convincingly defeating a fighter of Canelo's caliber, Crawford has finally cemented the legacy he's worked so long to build. In McGirt's view, this win serves as the crown jewel of Crawford's resume, the kind of performance that historians and fans will point to as proof of his greatness. As far as McGirt is concerned, Crawford has nothing more to prove. His legacy is secure, and the win over Canelo will stand as a lasting symbol of his place among boxing's all-time greats.
Yes.
Like, what fight were they watching?
Right.
I mean, it's. I don't know, man. I don't know what some of these guys be doing in this game, man. Some people, in situations like that, they should ask them, listen, just turn in your license, bro. Because there's no way in hell the fight was that close.
Right.
I mean, come on, man. It's just, it's not fair. It's not fair. You get a guy like Terence got here and dominate from beginning to end, and then you find out he needed the last 2 rounds to win. That's scary, man.
It is, and you see how you just mentioned scary. Now, a lot of people are saying, buddy, that type of beating, he's not going to want a rematch. But looking at those gold cards and knowing that, hey, you wasn't too far behind, even though, he did mention that, he's better than Mayweather. But, I mean, what's your thoughts? Do you feel like that was such a beating that Canelo wouldn't want a rematch?
No, I think that, in all honesty, personally, I think that Canelo's at that stage in his career right now, that it's a rematch he don't need. He don't need it. You know what I mean? What we saw that night, that's the stage Canelo's at right now. He's fought everybody, he's did everything, but, he passed the torch to the right guy. He passed the torch to the right guy. He lost it to Terence fair and square, and he passed the torch. So if you're gonna have another fight, cool, but you don't need to. He has nothing to prove. He fought Terence and nobody else would.
When comparing Terence Crawford to Floyd Mayweather, many experts emphasize Floyd's mental edge as the defining factor that gave him the upper hand. While Crawford is widely recognized for his technical prowess, seamlessly switching stances, adapting during fights, and breaking down opponents with precision, Mayweather brought something extra to the table. Beyond his physical skills, Floyd excelled at psychological tactics, often outthinking his opponents and causing them to abandon their game plans. This mental dominance, both inside and outside the ring, is considered the key difference separating the two fighters. Crawford's talent is unquestionable, but the unique ability Floyd had to control the psychological battle is what, according to many historians, places him in a league of his own. This comparison highlights how close Crawford is to Mayweather's status, yet also underscores the distinct mental aspect that makes Floyd's legacy stand apart.
Hagler, Hearns, I've seen Sugar Ray Leonard and Marvin Hagler. Like I've seen all of those things, and those fights were wars. Floyd Mayweather is the best boxer I've ever seen. He's the most skilled boxer I've ever seen. Bud, and this is just my opinion, is the baddest man I've seen wear boxing gloves. And here's why I say that. Here's why I say that. Bud is extremely skilled, right? Yet not as skilled as Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather made people look foolish, right? And so if I had to say who's the greatest I've seen, and Bud said it right, the best of an era and the best of an era, it's Floyd. But when I watched Bud against Canelo, there was this extreme skill on display, and there was a level of crazy that's different. There was a level of, and Floyd's extremely tough. Go back to Shane Mosley and the 2 punches he landed early in the fight and the way that he embarrassed him. I'm not saying that Floyd's not tough, Floyd's not a bad man, but there was domination inside that ring we saw this weekend. And there's no fear in him in the way that he's attacked gaining notoriety. Bud's been the baddest man for 12 years, but no one gave him credit because he didn't go tell you he was the baddest man. He didn't market that. He just went out and fought and beat people and knocked people out. So he had to move up and take the bigger fights and the better fights, and he was Errol Spence.
More than 10 years, Terence Crawford has been quietly demonstrating his boxing talent. His reserved nature and avoidance of flashy antics meant that many in the sport initially underestimated him. Unlike fighters who thrive on bold self-promotion and showmanship, Crawford chose to let his skill inside the ring do the talking. This approach earned him admiration from boxing enthusiasts, but limited his exposure to the wider audience early in his career. It's only recently, with high-profile bouts against Errol Spence Jr. and Canelo Alvarez, that mainstream fans have started to fully recognize his greatness. Yet, some critics feel this spotlight came too late, as Crawford is now well into the latter stages of his career. While he may still add notable wins to his record, the opportunity to build a lasting mainstream legacy is narrowing. This has led many to speculate how different public perception might have been if Crawford had received greater attention earlier on.
That's how great he was. Canelo cemented him on what is the two-headed monster that marks the greatest of the 2000s. Floyd Mayweather is on that, and Bud Crawford is right next to him. I don't think we have to pick on who's better. I think they both dominated their eras equally.
Floyd Mayweather has often faced criticism for his reluctance to give credit to other boxing legends, particularly his refusal to place Muhammad Ali, widely regarded as the greatest ever, above himself. Now, with Terence Crawford achieving accomplishments that put him in similar elite company, questions about Mayweather's ego have resurfaced. Crawford's convincing win over Canelo has sparked debates that could see him enter the same historical discussions as Floyd. For a fighter so protective of his legacy, this new competition is tough to accept. Critics suggest that Mayweather thrives on being seen as the ultimate standard in boxing, and when another athlete approaches that level, it challenges his sense of supremacy. This perceived jealousy contributes to the tension surrounding Floyd's public reactions to Crawford's rise, as it appears difficult for him to tolerate anyone else sharing his spotlight.
Puts him on par with Floyd Mayweather Jr., and you know Floyd Mayweather Jr. doesn't like that. Floyd Mayweather Jr. is one of the biggest egos in the sport, so much so that he could not find a way to give Muhammad Ali credit as being a top 5 fighter and claimed that Roberto Duran sits above Muhammad Ali, right? Why? Because Floyd wants to be better than Muhammad Ali. He completely redid his image when he became Money Mayweather to pretty much copy from calling himself the GOAT, calling himself TBE, right? Whole thing. Very disrespectful of Muhammad Ali when he was coming up, when after Floyd Mayweather Jr. wound up being at the top of the sport. So now that Terence Crawford has firmly placed himself at the top of boxing, and not just as the pound for pound fighter right now, many people are saying, hey, shouldn't he be considered one of the greatest fighters of all time? Isn't this a realistic conversation we can have? So what does that do? That butts Terence Crawford right up against Floyd Mayweather. So when Floyd was asked a series of questions, right? Because Floyd is now has a fight coming up. I do believe it maybe in January. I think it may be in January or early 2026, I believe is the time frame, where Floyd Mayweather Jr. is going to be fighting Mike Tyson in I believe this is going to be an exhibition.
John Porter had a conversation with Terence Crawford about what drives him to take on fights that many thought were beyond his reach. Crawford shared that for a long time, critics doubted his ability to compete at the highest level. Instead of shying away from the skepticism, he welcomed the challenge and actively looked for chances to prove his critics wrong. His wins over Spence and Canelo represent more than just career milestones. They stand as personal triumphs that quiet years of doubt and skepticism.
Get close to him when you want to, not when he wants you to. And you know what I mean? That's how it was.
I know, I'm sorry. I know this is bad production, but we gonna need you to turn that phone to the side. I know, I'm thinking about Happy right now. I'm like, he know better. That's better. Go ahead, Ant, go ahead.
Hey, but you know how, man, me and Sean, we know you personally. I had people telling me, nah, man, this is just a money grab. He just went up there for the money. I said, man, if you know this dude, but you mentally, bro, I put you in the same category as Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. I'm like, he wants to be great. Y'all want the money, but I want to be great. Where that come from, man?
It's just me, you know what I mean? Like, I think all the greats is just born with that competitiveness, you know? And like I said, you know, a lot of people, they didn't want me to accomplish the feat over Canelo. It wasn't that it wasn't possible. They didn't want me to be the one to do it because I was the one that they was blackballing for years. I was the one that they said, you know, wasn't gonna make it to this table. I was the one that they said couldn't sell. I was the one that they said, you know, made bad business decisions. So of course they don't want me to be the one to make it to the top and then conquer.
Porter emphasized that Crawford's readiness to confront challenges directly sets him apart as a fighter. While some might opt for less difficult routes, Crawford deliberately sought out the toughest competition, driven by a desire to prove he belongs at the very top. This mentality has propelled him into discussions about boxing's all-time greats, ensuring his legacy is shaped not only by his skill, but also by his perseverance and grit.
All odds, because now this is a slap in the face to every person that ever wrote a bad article about me, about anything.
Probably the best fit of all. And a lot of people get mad at me because I said, when it comes from pound for pound that I ever seen it in my lifetime, ever, I got Floyd, then I got you. They're like, well, what about blah, blah, blah? I said, this is what I seen. I seen Bud, I seen Floyd. I can't talk about what happened in the 20s and the 40s. I can talk about what I seen now. Do you feel like, Bud, you stamped your legacy and we're going to forever say, well, you could have beat this person, you could beat that person, you feel like you did it?
Of course, it's definitely going to be, it's already written in the history books. Yeah. Like before, everybody was already comparing me and saying things like that, but hold on. Yeah.
I know, good job.
Okay. But now, you know what I mean, it's like, okay, so now he proving himself with a bigger, stronger guy in his weight division that he was undefeated in, that he was undisputed in, you know. So those things like that, you know, you can't ignore.
Hey man, how do you allow people not to put their limitations on you? Because when I gave motivation last week, I told him about like how you motivated me to start my own company. And come out, I remember you been in my living in my kitchen, motivated me to start my own company. How do you allow no one else to put their limitations on Terence?
That wraps up today's video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.